If you're to listen to the myriad of expose podcasts, interviews, or backstage documentaries that focus on the highs and crushing lows of the wrestling industry, you'll often find one common thread that connects nearly every talent across any of the big brands, and that is that wrestlers are often tasked with putting up with a ton of very silly bollocks. Be it terrible gimmick changes, bizarre booking, or just some asinine requests by the higher-ups to go against everything that made them stars in the first place, it seems that you need the patience of a saint to get anywhere these days. However, everyone has their limits, everyone has their breaking point, and sometimes these horribly fascinating moments are caught on camera and are witnessed by millions. So let's take a look at this gallery of pain today. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 exact moments that wrestlers died inside. Number 10, Braden Walker. So it's no surprise to hear, but WWE scripting is terrible. It's actually been terrible for years, decades even, and yet somehow people are still disappointed. Now statistically, the WWE is going to f*** up way more than they create anything of worth, hence why Mandy Rose's hair got more main roster screen time than Mustafa Ali recently. So poor old Braden Walker was on the front line when it came to dealing with terrible dialogue, as his debut segment actually marked the moment that he died inside. Knock knock, who's there? Braden Walker, and I'm gonna knock your brains out. That exchange killed Walker so hard that he never recovered. Honestly, no wonder he came down to the ring with his hands on his hips. The lad was visibly seething at how he'd been treated. Number 9, Bayley. The WWE system has a way of defeating its talent off-screen while they go 50-50 on it. In a peak of this development, the system battered the spirit of Bayley into oblivion in 2017, and the whole thing was actually just depressing to watch. Bayley was booked to lose to Alexa Bliss in a kendo stick on a pole match at Extreme Rules. This was a disaster in which the Bayley character, a WWE superfan, would not use a weapon to win. In that one moment, it exposed her character as, well, utterly stupid to think that at no point that she'd have to resort to weapons to win in a company that seems to use this as a device every other bloody match. What made matters worse was that in an interview with Corey Graves, she was given the script to justify why she was behaving so strangely, and she delivered it with all the passion of a coma patient. A lack of confidence and a severely defeated expression spoke volumes to the utter garbage that she was given to peddle. Poor Bayley. Number 8, Simon Gotch. So here's an obvious fact. Simon Gotch hates Enzo Amore. He buried him to the core of the earth in a 2018 RF video shoot, claiming that Enzo Amore was a f***ing abortion, and was so incompetent at and ignorant of wrestling that he broke his leg trying to counter a wrist lock and thought that Kalisto was Manny Fernandez. Gotch was scathing in his assessment of his former NXT colleague to a level even beyond Amore's notoriously abrasive behavior would seem to justify, and the why might have actually revealed itself when Enzo responded a year later. The story as Enzo tells it, and remember he's a narrator about as reliable as the guy from the Telltale Heart, is that he absolutely eviscerated Gotch in a promo class with such devastation that Gotch never recovered. According to Enzo, and again possibly not even true, Gotch was wearing his Andre the Giant singlet, and Enzo preyed on it. He said, "Simon Gotch has got a pair of titties like a 65-year-old woman, how you doing?" And apparently he said that to a huge pap. Kid died in his mind right there, Enzo claimed. Now, we haven't heard any response from Gotch at this point, but once all of this craziness is over, we should demand that he tells his side of the story, don't you think? Number 7, Hulk Hogan. To confirm that Hulk Hogan exists in a fantasy world, he got himself completely worked up over some fantasy booking at the 2006 WWE Hall of Fame. Steve Austin inducted Bret Hart into that year's class. As he was introduced by host Jerry Lawler, the fans in attendance buzzed at the rare sight of Austin and Hulk Hogan together, who was there to induct his good friend Mean Gene Okerlund. They erupted in chants of Austin, Hogan, in an apparent attempt to will a dream match into existence. And Austin, playing along, said, "It's funny, I was going through my bag in the back and I found a can of whoop-ass and it had Hulk Hogan's name on it." The crowd popped large. Austin was the babyface in this dream match, and Hogan, well, he could not have looked more pissed off. Hogan had a face like a slapped ass all night long after, which normally he might have enjoyed were it Brooks slathered in tanning lotion, but it was actually his own, and he was absolutely pig sick at the thought of anybody else enjoying the spotlight for once. Number 6, Bret Hart. At Survivor Series 1990, 1997, Bret Hart screwed out of the WWF title on his way out of the company, wrote the letters WCW in the air. Meant as a defiant gesture, he looked absolutely defeated. There was no real conviction behind his body language. He visibly did not want to go, and the reason why immediately revealed itself. He debuted at Starrcade 97 as a special guest referee. He had questioned whether WCW would know how to book a wrestler of his standing, and LOL WCW being LOL WCW answered that question quite literally. Contractually, he wasn't able to immediately wrestle for WCW, but there were a million different means of introducing him to the company. Precisely 1 million of those reasons benefited from the anticipation, and it's not as if, as shown through Sting's year, they shouldn't have built it. WCW booked WWF loyalist Bret Hart like a WCW fan, and not like an incoming superstar, because the NWO at this point was just way cooler, bro. A multifarious regulation before he was even promoted, Hart's WCW run was doomed to fail. And as Eric Bischoff pointed out much later, he definitely lost his smile. Number 5. Paul Heyman. At the finish of December to Dismember's Extreme Elimination Chamber match, Paul Heyman's man didn't win. WWE developmental prospect Bobby Lashley last defeated WCW and WWE stalwart The Big Show for the ECW Heavyweight Championship. To sell this, Heyman stood ringside and covered his face with his hands in dejection. He was, at the very least, method acting. The disaster of a show was the culmination of a disastrous reboot. The ECW brand had mutated into just another WWE property, and while it was insane to expect something resembling the old days that fans really wanted, we were just hoping for something, anything a little bit different. And we did get glimmers of hope, but they were immediately stamped out by Vince trying to put over his own stars on a brand that wasn't actually intended for them. Heyman therefore had to watch his dream die twice over thanks to McMahon, and after a legendary blowout with Vince, Heyman didn't even make it to the next TV taping. Number 4. Gail Kim. Gail Kim was a tremendously accomplished talent years ahead of the North American in-ring standard. If you have seen a video of her early training days, you would even call her a prodigy. She had incredible speed, agility, and poise. There was this snap, this aggression and fire to everything she did. Yet to Vince, she was just a flash-in-the-pan star, and made sure that any chance that she had of breaking out of the Divas mold that he'd made was snuffed out instantly. After months and months of absolute billy, Gail Kim finally took matters into her own hands, actively refusing to be part of the machine that ground her and other women down by eliminating herself immediately on a battle royale in 2011 before shortly quitting. It was effectively a giant middle finger caught on camera. Number 3. Dean Ambrose. The Dean Ambrose Chronicle is a fascinating watch, a gripping blend of the work and the shoot that documented a complex and fascinating man that stood in astonishing contrast to the cartoon that he played on television. And watching it now, it's even more fascinating. It's a documentary that sought to capture Dean Ambrose's return to WWE, but in reality, it's about Jon Moxley's exit. It captures Moxley pissed off at the process, accusing the team behind it of trying to dictate his narrative. I'm not going to manufacture some answer for you. Go find somebody else and go give him a script. He's essentially on Talk is Jericho before the material drove him over the edge to even appear on Talk is Jericho. The very first minute is loaded in damning subtext as Moxley, bustling with the furious energy that he would later apply to his awesome New Japan and AEW runs, projects everything simmering within him onto the crew. I just want it to be over. I just want to get back to being in the ring. Get back to doing what I'm doing. As he later told Chris Jericho on that incendiary podcast appearance, he didn't know that it wasn't the WWE ring that he actually wanted to get back into. Number 2. CM Punk. The Championship Ascension ceremony of December the 9th, 2013 was a stark illustration of the attitude that eventually threatened WWE's monopoly by the decade's end. Held in front of various former champions to promote John Cena and Randy Orton's world title unification match, the fans in attendance did not give a which was absolutely priceless in its dissonance. WWE talked up the ancient rivalry as if it was going to be this special thing on the grand tapestry, but all the fans cared about was Daniel Bryan, which completely flummoxed Triple H as he faltered in his in-ring warbling. However, the best moment of this absolute farce came from CM Punk, who at this point was so utterly done with the WWE that he wasn't even trying to hide it. As Stephanie McMahon praised her husband as the pinnacle of the great talents in the ring, you can see him finally release his last remaining and laughed to himself. His wits were gone, and so was he shortly after. And number 1, Hangman Page. So this last entry is actually a kayfabe diversion that illustrates the power of AEW's deft long-term storytelling. At All Out, Hangman Page lost the opportunity to become the inaugural AEW World Champion. On the subsequent Being the Elite, he was absolutely despondent. The Young Bucks tried to console him, but he received it as an obligation on their part. Page tried to play the role of a top breakout babyface on Dynamite, but he failed. He lost a trilogy to Pac that inadvertently told 2 stories. The first match underwhelmed, but the second 2 were great, and Page, struggling, still had the potential as a top star, and to realize it, he had to leave the Elite. The grand emotional heft of this story is that Page is elite, and it's no shame for him to require the support network that he himself extended to Kenny Omega. But by overcompensating, he will one day be truly left with nothing. This whole bit is plotted and textured to such incredible dramatic effect, and every conceivable ending is bittersweet devastation, which of course makes it seminal pro wrestling. AEW's base is high as a kite on it, and it is simmered for almost a full year. So fans definitely do have the patience, it's just gotta be good. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 exact moments that wrestlers died inside. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. But before I go, my friends, I just want to say one thing. We detailed today a lot about the exact moments that people just gave up, they lost hope, and I hope that that never happens to you. We might have to deal with some extremely tough and challenging times in our lives, but I really hope that you find it within yourself to carry on, because you deserve love, happiness, and success, and sometimes setbacks will force us to reevaluate those things. Just remember though, failure does not mean it's the end of the road, but actually an opportunity to gain some perspective. By failure, you learn where your limitations are, when you need help, what routes you need to go down, and sometimes whether to just say that this potentially isn't right for you. Don't waste a ton of energy trying to change something that you don't have any impact over. Treat yourself with love and kindness instead, and hope that you have a fantastic day, whatever you get up to. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. I'll speak to you soon.